You know how insane this is?
Quiet, man. You don't know what you're talking about. First, let's address the climate in the United States. In the president's first week in office, 275,000 jobs was lost. Diversity, equity, and inclusion programs were canceled. And his administration moved forward with a campaign to deport more than 500,000 immigrants. Many of these individuals had lived in the U.S. for 2 to 4 decades, raising children who are now adults and lifelong Americans in everything but paperwork. The countries to which they are being sent back to: Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela, Mexico, Honduras, Guatemala, Colombia, and more, are places where war, political instability, famine, and humanitarian crisis have long raged. Since the campaign began, over 2 million people have self-deported. These 2 million people left behind deep connections, friendship, and families who now live with an irreplaceable void. They were originally granted safe haven in America because of those very conditions, and now they are being uprooted into a nation still plagued by chaos, poverty, and violence. Entire families are being torn apart, and the whole community are left in fear and uncertainty. Now, consider Charlie Kirk, one of the most vocal campaigners for Donald Trump. Let me be clear. I reject the idea that anyone should take another person's life. No one should act as judge, jury, and executioner. Life is secret, and only God has the authority to give and take it. But Kirk, through his words and actions, poured gasoline on the fire that was already burning. His rhetoric struck division and ultrasonically amplified hostility across this country. After his assassination, America became a ticking time bomb, fragile, polarized, and waiting for exploitation. And in this heated atmosphere, the people being disproportionately attacked, harassed, and even murdered in mass are black and brown people. It is important to point out being a Trump loyalist itself is not an issue. People have a right to their political allegiance. But when that loyalty transforms into hostility, when it becomes harassment against the very people his administration is silencing and scapegoating, then we have a serious problem.
This is a black university, and this is what we offering up to the world for the world to see. You will never find a video on the internet where a black man goes to a campus full of white people and get accosted like this unless he's conservative. You get a black man going to a conservative campus with a Kamala hat on, you will never see this happen. Now, think about this. Let's get to our next story. These HBCUs. You will never find a liberal going to campus and this happening to him. You will never find this. Now, with all due respect, I don't know these guys. They went there looking for some smoke, but that does not mean that people should have brought the smoke. Why can't people be normal, rational people that can just come have a conversation? But as we know, left-wing violence is the biggest threat to America. Exhibit A, roll the clip.
Like what would happen? Hey, you can't, don't do that. Come on. Yo.
Now I want y'all to pay attention. As this is happening, what are the people in the crowd doing? This is not a one-off. This like when Hamas took hostages over to Gaza, everybody was cheering that you saw. Did you see anybody not cheer? Everybody was cheering. They endorsed the behavior. Look at what happened and watch how many people endorse the behavior, even if they're not in it.
Imagine going to a historical black university, dressed in full mega attire and setting up shop as though to provoke. What does that look like? And what does that signal? The response under these conditions is predictable if you understand human psychology. People are emotional, deeply emotional when their existence, identity, and safety are under attack. That is not just theory, it is human reality. Every action taken in this climate carries symbolic weight. Videos are surfacing and there are more to come showing the growing backlash. The question we must ask ourselves is this. In a country already fractured along racial and political lines, who benefits when black and brown people become the default targets? What we just witnessed in that host rant is not an honest assessment of black students at Tennessee University. It is an attempt to weaponize one incident to shame the entire legacy of HBCUs and, by extension, the black community itself. This framing is dangerous because it is isolate a moment of youthful protest, stripped of its context, and presented to the world as though it is a sum total of what black institutions represent. That is propaganda. You are black men in this country unless you have forgotten or you don't read.
I don't want to read all this stuff. Y'all know I can't read that good.
As a famous saying by the white man, the best place to hide information or anything for the Negro man is in a book. So I guess this statement is literally the definition of you. Why the double standard? The host insists you will never find a video of a black man being harassed on a white conservative campus.
Confusion on campus.
It's really f***ed up. I can't speak to her no more.
A tight-knit community trying to piece together the unthinkable.
It's an ongoing investigation.
Trey Reed just started college at Delta State University, a freshman.
His body was discovered hanging from a tree.
Found hanging from a tree in the middle of campus.
There's no evidence of foul play.
No black person is climbing up no tree, putting no rope around their neck and hanging themselves.
The people are not buying it. This happened in a community just 20 minutes from where Emmett Till was murdered.
Black people are being lynched.
The Shade Room is on it. We're looking at the campus and their security systems and what we found when we took a closer look at what's around those pickleball courts where his body...
That is not only false, it is deliberately misleading. We have a long history of violence and harassment of black students integrating white campuses, from the Little Rock 9 to James Meredith at Ole Miss to ongoing microaggressions onto their campuses. The entire civil rights struggle is proof that black students are always being targeted for simply existing in white spaces. So you erase that history and claim the opposite is gaslighting. Now, here is a broader anti-black narrative. Notice how quickly the host pivot from an isolated confrontation to labeling HBCU students and even the NAACP as immature and embarrassing. This isn't commentary, man. It is part of a larger campaign that discredits black institutions, painting them as violent, irrational, and unworthy. That is the same logic colonizer used to justify dismantling African kingdoms, and the same logic segregationists used to deform black schools, and the same logic modern politicians use to attack diversity, equity, and inclusion. The tactics is simple. Point at a single act of chaos and use it to indict an entire people. That is not accountability, my brother. That is anti-black scapegoating. This incident was not about free speech versus violence. It was about propagation. Groups like Turning Point USA have a long record of targeting black campuses, especially because they know their presence sparks strong reactions. That is not by mistake and it's not coincidence. They seek viral confrontation to push the narrative that black students hate free speech. The host fell right into that trap, or rather, he is part of setting that trap. Those who are woke reminds us that the real threat is not a few students yelling at agitators. The real threat is the sustained underfunding of HBCUs and the predatory student loan system that strangles black graduates and the corporate pylons that exploit black labor while denying black ownership.
They're not contributing, they're endorsing it. Roll the clip.
Okay. Bring the sign back.
Whoa, did somebody just throw something in our car?
They just tried to hit the car.
No, hold on. Pause. Because it's finna get interesting. Trust me. Now, do you see anybody in camera view that's not yelling, screaming, encouraging the violence, being violent, throwing up the middle finger, using the N-word against these white dudes? Do you see anybody that's just bystanders standing around observing? Do you see any? And let me add this. You will never find a video on the internet where a black man goes to a campus full of white people and get accosted like this unless he's conservative. You get a black man going to a conservative campus and with a Kamala hat on, you will never see this happen. It's pure racism. This is a problem, America. Finish it.
How is this a university?
They're intentionally blocking.
This is at a university. TSU. This is at a university where people go to be educated for the future. Can you imagine these people being released out from behind the gates into public life? You know how insane this is? This is a black university, and this is what we offering up to the world for the world to see. Are so crazy. They in pajamas, bonnets, yelling and screaming at some white people for going on campus asking questions. I'm embarrassed for black people right now. This didn't happen at a white university where black people go. This is an HBCU, historical black college and university. This is the best of the best in the black community. It should be, right? It should be. NAACP ain't done nothing for black people since the inception. I don't want to read all this stuff. Y'all know I can't read that good. The bad black people have put their foot in their butt and mouth at the same time with this. Does this represent every black person? No. But it is significant that a historical black college and university performs like this on a stage in front of the world. The only reason they were mad at these people is because these are white people coming onto campus. And they don't like that white people have something to say about DEI. They don't like that white people are wearing MAGA hats.
Those are the systemic issues we must keep front and center, not the distraction of a viral clip. Look at how the nations reacted in the wake of Charlie Kirk assassination. The very first public remarks included the chilling statement, I quote, "This is a tragedy. I was hoping it was not one of us." Think about that. What were you hoping it was not one of us? And who do you expect that it should have been? Before the facts were known, before the suspect was even confirmed, the language revealed the truth. They had already chosen the enemy. Not one of us men. Let it be black. Let it be brown. In this country, black and brown people are always pre-assigned as the culprits, the convenient villains, no matter the evidence. And sure enough, within days of that shooting, multiple HBCUs were put on lockdown because coordinated death threats were made against black students nationwide. Black youth were targeted not because they pulled the trigger, but because America's reflex is to treat black life as suspect as threat, as expendable. Here is the current realities of violence. You want to talk about violence? Let's talk about it. A 22 years old suspect, Taylor Robinson, was arrested and charged in Charlie Kirk case. Yet the narrative had already shifted to painting black and brown communities as problem. At the same time, black students at HBCUs were threatened, harassed, and terrorized simply for existing in black spaces. And in Wisconsin, a 14 years old black boy was attacked by white teens who tried to push him into a meat grinder, a modern day lynching attempt in broad daylight. Recorded, shared like a spectacle. These are not isolated incidents. They are the continuation of a system that has always allowed black pain to be spectacle, black fear to be weaponized, for black life to be disposable. Instead of being embarrassed for black people, as the host says, we should be reminded of how consistently our people have defended their spaces, their institutions, their dignity. From the students who sat at the segregated lunch counters to the Soweto youth who rose against apartheid, young black people have always resisted voices that try to delegitimize their struggle. That energy may not always be polished, but it is authentic. And authenticity matters in a world that constantly demands black silence, black obedience, and black respectability. So, let's be clear. The problem is not a few HBCU students shouting back at provocators. The problem is a system where black youth are threatened with meat grinders, where black campuses are terrorized after shooting they had nothing to do with, and where even in moments of national tragedy, public figures reveal that they are hoping it was one of us. We, as people, cannot allow others to narrate our wealth or define our humanity, because the world doesn't just need to see our anger. It needs to see our brilliance, our strategy, and our power. That's how it's supposed to be. So as a black man, you getting on YouTube and making the kind of statement, knowing very well you got your education in this country, I'm confused. Are they paying you to do this? Because if they're paying you not to think, you are harming yourself. If they are paying you not to assess a problem properly, you are harming yourself, because you are making yourself look more of a house Negro and a sellout.